the Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Excuse me. Welcome to Badlands Daily. Today's Thursday, so I'm joined by this guy over here, my brother from another mother of another color, Alpha Warrior. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Good morning, America.
Yeah, put your background on, man. What kind of unprofessional crap is this?
It's matching your background.
It's not, dude. That would be so sick if you could match my background.
Your background's completely black on my screen.
Oh my god! Here we
go. Let me hold on before you. Let me go on. Let me check Rumble.
You see the hoodie, guys? You see the hoodie? Rise attire. There you go. The psyop, the psy war is going on between me and Alpha.
No, I'm talking about not your background. I see your flag and all that. I'm talking about the Rumble Studio background.
No. I was talking about your black background because I wasn't going to acknowledge that you were rocking out in the background as we were playing because you would have come on and said that's not true. That didn't happen.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point. Just like you didn't say that AI should be watermarked.
AI should not be watermarked. It should have something in the metadata. It should be there as an
now we
option.
have another flip. It
should be there as an option should the user want to, but it should not be forced on anybody's creative work.
All right. Well, we're going to get into the show. Before we do that,
I was very interesting. On Rumble, it does show the Badlands Daily background, but for me in the studio, I just see a solid black background.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good call because I actually have the wrong background up. So now I have the right background up before Jessica comes in here and yells at me. Can you see it now?
Now I see it. Yeah.
Interesting. You know what? I think it's because I deleted the background. Anyways, it's complicated. I screwed up, but thank God you pointed that out because then it stops, Jessica coming in here and like giving me the slap on the wrist. And I hate that. It scares you, man. When you see, there we go. Now we're ready to rock and roll. All right. I want to start today's show off. I was driving to the chiropractor yesterday. So, I had nothing else to listen to. So I was listening to the Daily Herald. And I think I heard Jess Koch say that we forgot to read her rant on SITREP, and I felt horrible. At first, I was like, there's no way. I read Thomas Times. I went through the Badlands boost, and I missed it. So I did actually miss it. And so Jess Koch, and I'm going to read it on SITREP too, says, happy belated birthday, Devil Dogs. My Marine, who is a sergeant at a state prison, is retiring a week from today. He is the best husband and father. I'm so happy he can leave the shit show that is our prison system. Brian and Alpha, can you give him a hoorah? Absolutely not. I cannot give him a hoorah, but we can give him an oorah.
Yes, we can.
We don't say hoorah in the Marine Corps. That's an Army thing, and they don't even say hoorah. They just say like hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. Say it. We can save it for SITREP. We can go over what our response, our obligatory response when somebody says hoorah versus oorah and hooyah, like the Navy says, and all that stuff. So okay.
You knew where I was going already, man. I love it.
I knew exactly where you were going, and I did not want to. I did not want to do that on Badlands Daily. We can do it on SITREP. We can do it on SitRep. One person, one vote asked if it's live on X. Yes, it is. It shows it's live on X. So yeah, we should be live on X. Okay, let's jump into the spot. Guys, today's show, we've got some big stories, and they're complete nothing burgers. And it's going to be fun to unpack this with Alpha, and I'm looking forward to it. But we do have to talk about our sponsors first, because, you know, we got to keep this show running. And we've got great sponsors, man. We've got great sponsors. Check out Brick House Nutrition. Do doctors have Black Friday sales? No, they don't. Come in and get half price off of breast augmentation. Actually, they do, but those are surgeons, and that's like cosmetic. You can't go in there and be like, hey, doc, can you replace my kidney for half price? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. The doctors at Brick House Nutrition, they do have sales. They just announced their Black Friday 30% off sale, the biggest sale of the year, and the most impressive and health nutrition products in the industry. They're now 30% off. Like Lean, the doctor-formulated weight loss supplement for people who want to lose meaningful weight without injections. 30% off Creatone, the creatine designed just for women. It's just for you, Alpha. For women who want to help you look leaner, in shape, and toned without extra dieting and exercise. Notice the key word is extra, guys. You still got to work out. Even 30% off Field of Greens, the only super fruit and vegetable drink that shows in a university study is actually slowing aging. Everybody wants to slow their age, right? Father Time's undefeated, but you certainly can put up a good fight and go into overtime against him. And only Field of Greens promises better health results that your doctors will notice. Every Brickhouse product, from better sleep to superior collagen, is 30% off, 30% off. But hurry, because these Black Friday sales go fast. Visit brickhousesale.com and save 30%. Again, that's brickhousesale.com. One more time, brickhousesale.com. All right.
It's a brick house.
Banana. Every time I hear that song, I think of
Gone in 60 seconds.
Gone in 60 Seconds, when he's trying to get the car out of the impound lot and he pulls out the Barbie. He's like, hey, look, it's a brick banana house. And the cop's kind of looking at him like, that's kind of interesting. Security guard, excuse me. Well, you sure he's not a cop?
No.
He's watching the police impound. He could be like a desk jockey that got like kicked out for some reason.
Security guard.
All right. And then let's talk about our friends over at Chef IQ. Cooking Thanksgiving dinner is high stakes. It feels like one dried out turkey can ruin it all. It's absolutely true. And that's why I love my Chef IQ Sense. The wireless cooking thermometer takes the guesswork out of holiday cooking. The USDA says turkey has to hit 165 degrees to be safe. Your eyes can deceive, but Chef IQ ensures that you hit that perfect temperature every time. Whether you're roasting, grilling, pan searing, or even smoking that turkey, it's got you covered. It couldn't be easier. Just insert the sensor, tell the app what you're cooking, then sit back and relax. Chef IQ Sense tells you when to flip it, take it off the heat, and even how long to let it rest. Basically, it's like having a personal chef watching the stove, so you can hang out with your guests. No more oven peaking, no more dried out turkey, just perfectly cooked meals every time. And it works for steaks, chicken, fish, potatoes, everything, whatever you're cooking. You'll wonder how you ever cooked without it. Plus, it's the ultimate gift. Perfect for the seasoned cook, the kitchen rookies, and everyone in between. Now you can get 30% off site-wide with promo code Badlands at chefiq.com. Again, that's chefiq.com. Promo code Badlands. All right. Love my Chef IQ. And by the way, I don't know why they say even smoking the turkey. That's the only way to prepare a Thanksgiving turkey. Have you ever smoked a turkey, Alpha?
I have.
Okay, I was going to say, do it. How was it?
It was absolutely, you can't go back. The only other one that I would say is pretty damn, is the deep fried one. Either one of those, you're gonna get me over to your house for Thanksgiving.
It's still not as good as smoking it, though, man.
No,
and the key to smoking it is you got to do like 400 degrees in the grill, closed grill, or in the oven, 400, 450, just to crisp up the skin a little bit. Because when you slow cook it at 250, the skin kind of gets a little soggy, so you got to dry it out a little bit and get it crisp. But other than that, like, you're talking like cold cut quality meat, like just melts in your mouth. Even the white meat is moist as can be. It's juicy. All right. Let's jump into the news. Got a couple stories that we have left over from yesterday, some news stories, and me and Alpha are probably going to get into a fight to the death here, but that's okay. It happens.
I know where this is going.
What's up?
I said, I know where you're going.
I know. First up, CBS News: House votes to repeal shutdown deal provision, allowing $500,000 lawsuits from senators. This is a pretty big deal. The Senate basically like slid this in there at the last second and agreed to pay themselves like insane because they retroactively passed this law. We've talked about it here on Badlands, but the House is doing something about that. The House unanimously passed a bill Wednesday to repeal the controversial provision that allows senators to sue for $500,000 if federal investigators search their phone records without their knowledge. House leaders fast-tracked the bill under suspension of the rules, which requires a 2/3 majority for passage. However, the bill easily cleared the lower chamber in a 426-0 vote. When the hell do you ever see a 426-0 vote on something that's actually beneficial to the people in Congress? Like this is actually, I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the House for coming together on this one. You're nodding head along like I was giving you a chance to interject there. Quote, the House isn't implicated in what we did. It just simply applies to the Senate, said John Thune. There's a statute that obviously was violated. And what this does is enables people who are harmed, in this case, United States senators, to have a private right of action against the weaponization of the Justice Department. Senators would have been entitled to, well, still could be. It hasn't gone through the Senate yet. Senators are entitled to $500,000 for each violation, which means this could be millions of dollars if they have multiple devices, if, whatever the case might be.
You chose violence this morning, starting with this article.
I did choose violence. We're going to be 100% in agreement on this one, I think. But it says, which also limits how the government can rebut the claims. The law is retroactive to 2022, meaning it would allow the 8 senators to sue the federal government over the Arctic frost investigation. As the package moved through the House, and this is the part that kind of is like the expose on how they do this. And it's not necessarily an expose because we all know this. They're just kind of admitting it now. As the package moved through the House Rules Committee last week, Democrats tried to amend the bill to remove the provision. Several Republicans on the committee expressed surprise and anger over the provision's inclusions, but said they had to support the overall package to reopen the government because removing it would prolong the shutdown by sending the amended bill back to the Senate. Quote, what they did is wrong, says GOP Rep Austin Scott of Georgia last week. There's actually a list of people that know they will get paid as soon as this thing is signed, meaning the funding bill. At least they've got the coupon where all they have to do is go file at the courthouse now to get paid. So again, this is kind of insane to me that they're putting civil penalties on this $500,000 instead of criminal penalties. I would love to see this bill come with criminal penalties. If you spy on a senator without properly notifying them according to law, in accordance with law, it should be a criminal penalty. You should be, but for the government, for a senator to say, well, damn, I'm going to turn around and sue the government that I'm working for and make the taxpayers pay me $500,000 because my own government, my own body that, I'm working for is spying on me. I'm not okay with that, man.
Then we don't agree.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
You're a government official.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have to spy on you because every single thing that you do should be completely transparent.
Oh,
and
I agree with that.
If the FBI wants to pull up your call logs, they should be able to. If they want to go through your emails, they should be able to. If any third party that's an American affiliated, company, NGO, whatever the case may be, it should be able to. They shouldn't be. They should have. You should have zero official business privacy as a congressman. Now, their private life, conversations with their wife, their family, then they should be protected by all the same laws that we are through our Constitution. Outside of that, anybody should be able to, they'll use the word spy. I'll use the word held accountable. Now, what's done with that information, I'm open for an argument there. If all of a sudden information is then they try to leverage it against them, I think there should be crimes and investigations. If there's blackmail, I think there should be crimes and investigations. But if there's exposure to things they're doing, collaborations, things that are not in the best interest of the people, I'm all for it. And as far as the violations, then if you want to protect senators, and I think the reason the House wants to protect the senators because they are going to want to pass one to protect themselves as well, then how about let's do this? If you go to impeach a president, and I don't care if you voted no, but if you're part of the government went, whether it be the House, whether it be the Senate, whatever the case may be, you go to impeach a president, and then it doesn't happen, you should be fined $500,000. You go and you bring up an American citizen's name on something, and it turns out you're wrong. Each one of you should be fined $500,000. Fuck protecting these ass clowns. They don't need no protection.
We don't disagree. You're just expanding the scope of what's being said here. Because you kind of brought up, you went a level deeper, and I agree with you 100%. And let me ask you this. Do you think that you should be able to FOIA phone records from congressmen?
Yep.
Okay. Did you know that you cannot FOIA Congress at all?
I knew that there was aspects you couldn't. I didn't know it was a complete
All of
blanket.
Congress. FOIA, freedom of information, is exclusive to the executive branch. So unless there's an executive agency involved in it, you cannot FOIA. I cannot FOIA Nancy Pelosi's emails. I cannot FOIA congressmen's emails. Unless they're to an executive branch. So the oversight on Congress broadly is very limited. And so I'm with you 100%. What's that?
That's our issue.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
How do you have a congressman or woman go into government and have a net value of less than $1 million, only be in government for less than 6 years, and then they have a net value of over 25 million? Explain that shit to me when their salary is what is it, $200,000 a year, $200,000 a year?
Just so that there's sauce in this, because I know some people are going to be a little bit surprised by that. No, you cannot file a Freedom of Information request to access records from Congress itself, as Congress is not subject to FOIA. The act explicitly excludes Congress, its members, and its components from the definition of an agency covered by FOIA. This means Congress is not legally required to disclose records in response to FOIA requests. So I'm with you 100%.
The Capitol Police falls into that too.
Well, the Capitol Police, right. And you could make the argument that the Capitol Police, because it's a law enforcement, should be an executive agency, but it's very unique in that it's explicitly under the Speaker and the Sergeant at Arms and the Capitol itself. And so it's the only law enforcement, as far as I know, that doesn't have. The marshals might also be under the judiciary in terms of accountability. But yeah, that to me, that's insane. And so not only does this need to be repealed, I agree 100% that it needs to be repealed. And I agree that your official conduct in working as a senator, government work, should be subject to oversight. Now, the problem with this, Alpha, is you start getting into like Hoover syndrome, where Hoover had the dirt on everybody, and that made him the most powerful man in DC for, however many 40 years that he was the FBI director. He had the dirt on everybody.
But the reason he had the dirt on everybody is because he was positioned to be the only one that had access to get that kind of dirt on everybody.
Correct.
If you have a blanket availability to oversight, that's a deterrent in of itself. So down the long run, you don't have dirt because these people know that they'll get had. And so it creates, kind of like it's the change of behavior they did to everybody on social media. You start to self-censor because if you don't, you're going to get deplatformed. Well, you apply that same concept to Congress. If everybody in, government, NGOs, a normal citizen, if they can FOIA you, if they can investigate you, if they can spy on your congressional work, well, then you're not going to be doing corrupt shit. Now, of course, there's asterisks there. There's certain committees that have to be, I won't say absent there, but there has to be, like a judicial review to allow that, because you have like the House Intelligence Committee and things like this that need to be protected because of issues of national security. But even then, we have to make sure that there's still an avenue to check that, because if not, then they're going to do what they always do. Well, in the issues of national security, no one's going to see about this. And then they hide behind that. We have to limit the scope of why are they passing this law? They're trying to make a deterrent for anybody that's going to go after them. And I'm not with that, man.
Well, not only are they making a deterrent, they're making a payday because it's a guaranteed $500,000. Like even in civil in civil law, you still have to prove damages, and you can only get compensation equal to the damages that you incurred. And now, granted, there's nuance to how you determine those, like the woman that spilled coffee on her groin that got like millions of dollars for that. Granted, that was actually a legit case. The coffee was extremely hot, and McDonald's was doing that deliberately to keep it fresh longer. So that actually, a lot of people bring that lawsuit up as like a ridiculous lawsuit, but it's not, although it is pretty retarded to keep coffee in your lap while you're driving in a car. Anyways, but yeah, the idea that
the issue with that one, there's two issues. You shouldn't be driving with coffee in your lap. The second issue, a woman shouldn't be driving. Don't fight me now, fight me later on sit rep, ladies.
Yeah, this is not, or on Y Chromes on Monday. I'll clip that for then. All right, so we'll see what happens if the Senate passes the bill or not. But the thing that's, I think it was Austin Scott that he pointed out in there, that they just shoved these things into the bill because there's so much pressure to pass these omnibuses. They've got to go away. We did get 3 appropriations bills in the last one for SNAP and some of the other subsidies, VA funding, SNAP, and there was another one I can't remember off the top of my head. But that's the direction we need to go. Be moving into line item appropriations instead of these omnibus bills where they can throw this in. And this is something that was highlighted in like 2012, 2010, when they were talking about the Obama bills and how, there was so much pork, right? The Tea Party was out there. There's pork in this bill. There's pork in this bill. And that's all it was a rally cry. Nobody ever actually did anything about it. And you're seeing the same thing continuing here, where they're able to slide this little payday for themselves, Lindsey Graham and the like, being able to get all this money out of him. And you know what? I don't care that the FBI spied on you. They should have noticed, they should have, noticed these people that they were being spied on or looked into. But there needs to be accountability for these people. And that's all of them. Democrats, Republicans, whatever.
This is the part that really chaps me though, bro. Look how fast
I know
they passed something to protect themselves.
Always.
But how many millions of Americans were spied on by the same people and they haven't done shit about it, to include myself?
Yep.
In our financial records, our social media records, our location data, all this stuff that the FBI presented, to me, that they were monitoring with zero probable cause, fabricated all this stuff. What has Congress done for all of us? Parents going to school board meetings that were tasked. That should be their priority. What they say, they said, screw all of you guys. We got to protect us. And that's the part that I find ridiculous.
Yep.
$500,000 for you, but you literally had people not only spied on, but then you had people that went a step further. Thrown in gulags, put on, the Quad S program, all these other things, and they haven't done anything about it. Yep. And what did they say in this? Well, we had to do this real quick because if we didn't put it in there, it wasn't going to pass and there's a government shutdown. Why don't you guys use those principles to any other thing that you're trying to pass for the American people? All this particular one, all it did was make me hate these people even more.
They did throw the idea. It hasn't passed yet because they can't move with haste when it's for the people, but they did throw the idea out of the government compensating other people that were mentioned in Arctic Frost. And last night on my podcast, I had Leah Hoops from Pennsylvania, part of the election fraud expose there. And she was mentioned in there, and she's been sued out the wazoo. Her and Gregory Stenstrom in Pennsylvania have been sued over and over and over again, and they've won over and over and over again. And, it just keeps coming. And Leah found out she was in the Arctic Frost investigation. And hopefully, I'm okay with private people, citizens being able to sue the government over that. I'm perfectly okay with that. But again, these people are not accountable as individuals. They're taking these actions as in their individual capacities, right? Whether, they might have been ordered by somebody to do this, but they're doing it on their own individual desire, their individual vendetta against the people that were challenging the election, that challenging the COVID, challenging January 6th. And they're initiating these investigations on that. These are people that are not involved in the investigations whatsoever, right? Or involved in the crimes. And so there doesn't need to just be civil liabilities for this. There needs to be criminal liabilities for this.
I'm with that too. And they could have did something like this, and I would have been absolutely behind it. They could have set in parameters that you can't do this and you can't do that. And if something like this happens, they can open up an investigation into it. And then, at the results of that investigation, then they got to do what every other normal American citizen has to do. You want to sue the government? You go through the same chains that all of us do. You shouldn't get priority because you are a representative of the people. You shouldn't get priority. And that's the thing. These people's mindset, and granted, there's a lot of Americans that don't even get this.
Yeah.
How many people keep saying our leaders? They're not your leaders. These are your representatives. We are their constituents. And when they go and they put their own self-preservation in front of us, that's the issue. And this goes all the way back. And I know I'm going to get some people riled up in here. This goes all the way back when I used to call out MTG and Matt Gaetz back in 2021 and 2022. And why? Because I asked Matt Gaetz, and it's recorded for anybody that wants to argue with me. I said, why aren't you? And I brought up, remember when they went to J6 jail and they got played and they walked out? I said, if you guys are either working with, involved in, or have ties to the committees that fund this, because there was kind of some, are they in it? Are they not? And I don't remember what the conclusion of that came to. If you guys don't have the ability to do that stuff, why aren't you at least trying to tell us the direction to go? You went in there to check on American citizens, and they literally did a one-on over you, and you're not doing anything about that. And then I went and said, and why are you guys not trying to pass any bills for the American people? And also asked Matt Gaetz a question surrounding Patrick Berkey and Jesus, what do you call those? Berkey had presented him with something that's very important. When you take it to court, amicus brief. He had provided Matt Gaetz with an amicus brief. There's evidence that he provided with them. I've seen the evidence that he provided with them, so I know definitively this information was given to him surrounding stuff that was, Patrick Berkey was involved with when he was in the military that's now being used against citizens. So I asked Matt Gaetz on a recorded space about this. This was kind of in the beginning of these. And what was his response? First he pretended like he didn't hear me and then made me repeat it, and I repeated it. And he came back and he said, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that on a recorded space. So I was already disappointed with that. Then I got into the conversation, what I just explained to you guys. And I said, he goes, we're trying to, and the senior GOP guys don't let us. And I said, okay, if you're trying to do the will of your constituents and these people aren't letting you, then I get it. It's not your fault. Tell us the names of the people that are blocking you. He goes, I'm not going to tell you that. And I'm telling you, this is recorded. So if you're not going to tell me the names of the senior GOP people that are blocking you from doing the will of the people, then you're protecting the establishment, and then you're a problem. And at the time, MTG, what was she doing? All these great sound bites about MAGA. Cool. What are you doing, though? I'm glad you're doing the social media clips. I'm glad you're doing all this airtime. But what have you done that has made my life better? And the answer to that, folks, for those that you didn't research it, because I did, was she renamed a street and a post office. That's it. And so, and that's what brings me back, full circle to what we're doing here. These people show how fast and efficient they can be when it comes to self-preservation. But when it comes to fulfilling the role of what they've been elected to do, they can't do shit.
Yep. Well, let's see.
And that's why this pisses me off.
Let's see what this bill does in the Senate. The repeal does in the Senate. All right, let's jump into this story here. It's ironic that I mentioned this woman yesterday. Is it? It's ironic that I mentioned this woman yesterday, and then just a couple hours later, we get that she has been indicted. South Florida Congresswoman charged with stealing $5 million in FEMA funds and making illegal campaign contributions. This is Sheila Cherfilus. I don't even know how to say that name. Cherfilus. McCormick. She is actually my congresswoman. My congresswoman used to be Wasserman Schultz. I said this yesterday. This is the context I was referring to her. Wasserman Schultz moved down to East Fort Lauderdale because there's a much more oligarchical class down there, high donors, huge Jewish representation, and she was getting her ass kicked in the western part of Broward County with the South American and Venezuelan population in Weston, which is traditionally conservative. And she was getting her ass pummeled out here, so she moved out to East Fort Lauderdale, it seems. And McCormick picked up the slack out here. So let's jump into this from the DOJ. A federal.
Can I make one more comment? You got my blood pressure going.
Go ahead.
I'm serious. Why didn't the House pass a law that if a House member makes an allegation against a sitting president of the United States and they can't substantiate it, that they get fined $500,000?
Yes. Dude, why don't we get rid of the speech and debate clause? Especially outside of the House floor, and or at least put guardrails on it. Like, you can talk about the speech and debate clause, but the second you bring somebody that's not a private citizen, the second you bring their name into it, you better be damn sure. And I'm thinking of Nancy Mace when she said that her boyfriend did all that crap to her, and I'm going to show my chest on the House floor and all this stuff, and oh look, he was filming me naked. No, he has security cameras in his house, and you just happen to be like, you knew the cameras were there. There's no presumption of privacy if there's cameras present and you're living there. It's not like he published them. I don't think he did, but yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. And the speech and debate clause, which would remove those protections from them making false claims and lying to the people. But just in line with the Smith-Mundt, same concept right there.
All right, but back to this story is. Well, I'll wait till you finish.
Yeah, let me get through it first. A federal grand jury in Miami has returned an indictment charging McCormick and several co-defendants with stealing federal disaster funds, laundering the proceeds, and using the money to support her 2021 congressional campaign. McCormick and her brother, Edwin Cherfilus, worked through their family healthcare company on a FEMA-funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract in 2021. In July of 2021, the company received an overpayment of $5 million in FEMA funds. What a nice overpayment to get, $5 million. It's funny how that works. The defendants conspired to steal that $5 million and routed it through multiple accounts to disguise its source. A substantial portion of the misappropriated funds was used as candidate contributions to McCormick's 2021 congressional campaign and for the personal benefit of the defendants. McCormick and Nadege LeBlanc of Miramar arranged additional contributions using straw donors, funneling other monies from the FEMA-funded COVID-19 contract to friends and relatives who donated to the campaign as if using their own money. The indictment also charges McCormick's tax preparer, David K. Spencer. I actually know who that is. Of Davie, that's my hometown. I actually know who David K. Spencer is. With conspiring to a false federal tax return, falsely claimed political spending and other personal expenses and business deductions, and inflated charitable contributions to reduce her tax obligation. The part I want to highlight, though, is this part right here, Alpha, where this money was laundered, and then this money was used to prop up her campaign through straw donor donations. And it's not exactly the ActBlue smurfing campaign that we talk about so much on this program and on Why We Vote, but it's very adjacent. Government funds sent to somebody and then laundered into a political campaign. Were all $5 million laundered in there? No, absolutely not. Probably only a portion of it, a couple million. And then the rest was used for, her personal benefit, as is mentioned there. But that's no different than sending it over, money earmarked for Ukraine, for, poor people in whatever country you want to say. And then, 5%, 10%, 50% gets wedged off and sent back into the United States and laundered through ActBlue and then dispersed these Democrat campaigns. Also, WinRed does the same thing, not to scale, but they do the same exact thing. And so McCormick, good riddance. I hope, I don't know. I can't wait to see who's going to replace her in my county. Maybe I should run. To
the last point you made, even if there's not an immediate financial reward or incentive that comes, if all of a sudden there's a VP position, chief officer position, or some type of employment following their service to country that they get that has this multi-million-dollar, contract, I would say that that's something that needs to be investigated to see if there was no, some type of quid pro quo or
quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo. There you go. Thank you, brother. That's why we're family. Even things like that. I still think that that's a type of bribery and crime. But to this story specifically, is I absolutely love this. Why? Because all of you, whether you're in the chat or watching the replay or on social media later, says they're not doing anything. Nothing's happening. No one's being held accountable. Here's yet another story, because this isn't the first story. Here's another story of an official that is being held accountable for what they did.
I'm with you 100%. I got the chat fired up because I said, should I run? Guys, I would get pummeled in Broward County. We are a plus 20 blue county. I don't believe that for a second. A former professor at my alma mater tried to run here against Wasserman Schultz and was primaried. He was a Democrat. I think his name, Tim Canova. He was a law professor at Nova Southeastern, where I went to college. And he got beat, and then FOIA'd all the records from the election. A judge ruled, yes, they have to give you those records. And then they deleted them. They literally deleted them against the court order, and nobody was ever held accountable for that.
What's the next level of government above her?
Well, I mean, she's a congresswoman, so a senator.
Who would be the next level of government above her?
What do you mean?
Like, who would be the one what would be the rank right above her?
I mean, we have independent branches, so congresswoman is the highest rank in the lower house. So a senator would be technically.
But isn't how we have like the Speaker of the House? Don't.
Oh yeah, well, those are just ranks among Congress. So she's just a rank and file congresswoman. I don't think she had like any chairmanships or anything well, they wouldn't have any right now because they're a minority party. So she would be the ranking member. I don't think she was the ranking member on any committees or anything. I don't know.
So outside of the Speaker of the House, there's no in between on anything that she would have been a part of.
Oh yeah. There's the whip. There's the minority leader. There's the majority leader. There's party chairs, committee chairs.
See, and those are the positions that, I definitely need to bring myself up to speed on those positions. But these Congress people, you have to learn it from somewhere. Like, this has to you're either brought in. Now, I won't say across the board, because there are some people that get into these positions because they are criminals. But these people that come in, like you said, is it the whip? Is it who's the person that brings these people under their wing and shows them that this is the way things work? And I think that these kind of investigations are going to lead to that. And because here's the thing, when she gets brought in, if it hasn't happened already, or whether it happens on the prosecution side when it starts to go to trial, there's going to be a deal that's offered. There's going to be a plea system. And it's going to be like, here is what you're looking at. Or you can tell us who showed you how to do this or who was involved with you. And I think, whether it's those next ranks, I think that's what's going to start leading us up the chain.
Well, this could be the case that does that, because, if you read further, Alpha, if convicted, McCormick faces up to 53 years in prison. And Cherfilus, her brother, faces up to 35 years, LeBlanc 10 years, and Spencer 33 years. So you've got 4 people now that are involved in this that could have information that leads to something higher to get a plea deal to save their own ass. So yeah, you're spot on with that. Is, how high does this go? Does it go, was Wasserman Schultz involved? She's taken her seat. And Wasserman Schultz is all over the ActBlue stuff. She was all over the corruption in 2016 with the DNC when she was the chairwoman. How far does this go? Yeah, you're spot on with that. The DNC itself would be kind of the body that oversees and kind of commands these people directs these people. I don't want to say commands, but directs these people. So yeah, again, this is she the target? Yeah, she was the target, but I think you'll get more information out of her. And yeah, I'm with you, man. All right, let's jump into this story here. Now we'll probably go a little bit more in depth on this on SitRep. But again, we talked about this yesterday, but we got a little bit of a new update because one of the members that was in this insurrection, this treasonous statement, has spoken publicly now. And I'm sure you've seen this, Alpha, but this is from the Will Cain show. And I'm just going to play a segment of this. The Democrats going out there and telling the military to disobey the commander-in-chief.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you. We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
You can refuse orders. That is what those Democrats are telling our military. What orders? What are the specific orders the Democrats are talking about? This isn't soldiers in Vietnam at My Lai. This isn't soldiers in Iraq at Abu Ghraib. What specifically are they calling an illegal order? Because from this vantage point, it looks like a generalized call for insubordination, a generalized call for insurrection. One of those Democrats was just on this channel. And in an incredible cross-examination by Martha McCallum, no surprise, he had no answer.
Are they talking about
Martha,
not allowing gunboats to make it to the United States carrying drugs?
No.
Is that what you're talking about?
Martha, here's a novel idea. How about we actually prevent things from happening before they become a problem?
I think that's what they're trying to do.
What you're saying is we have to wait until there's a problem to respond to that problem.
No, I'm not. What
reminding them of their obligation
order from the commander-in-chief that we are asking our military to carry out are you objecting to? This is very, very vague. And it was so vague in this video. I don't think people could figure out what you guys were all talking about, honestly.
Martha, Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law and put our military in terrible positions.
Again, we're getting nowhere.
Okay, so we're going to play, there's a whole nother segment there from Stephen Miller. We'll play that tonight on SitRep. But you know, a lot of the points that McCollum put out there were the same exact points that we had yesterday. Ash and I had yesterday on this show, that they're not pointing to any specific orders. This is a dog whistle to the military, to the embeds that they still have left over from the Biden administration, the people that cucked for the vaccine and willfully took that. You know, the people they've weeded out, the Biden administration weeded out the yes men from the people that were independent thinkers. And now those yes men under the indoctrinated under the Biden administration are hearing this come from senators, CIA officials, and everything else. This is insane, dude. I'll let you comment because I haven't heard your take yet.
Yeah, no, I was just writing some notes on something I want to make sure to look up regarding the situation. And I like that she asked, "What orders are you talking about?"
Yeah. That's exactly what we said yesterday. You got to be specific.
Be very specific, because what you're allowing right now is for it to be subjective on the person that's hearing it. And if you have, and we've seen them, I hate bringing it up, but this is the recent one that happened. When you remember the Israel-Palestine, when that was very, front and center, you had military members in their uniform go and start making political statements against President Trump and the military. And you had it all over social media. Oh my God, they're being persecuted and all this, all this stuff. And when that happened, I brought up a specific gentleman that me and you had on SitRep that made a political statement in his uniform regarding Afghanistan when he was holding leadership accountable. And he knew the consequences of doing that statement in uniform. And what did he do? He pled guilty to it because he's a man. He said, I knew what I was doing was going to violate a portion of the UCMJ. I waited in my personal battle that the consequences would be worth it because a message needed to be delivered. And he owned it. And I have massive respect for that. You have these other members that are now crying, oh my God, my free speech, my this and this. They're the opposite of him. They wanted to deliver the message. They wanted the visual impact, but they don't want to be held accountable for something that they knowingly knew that they broke. These kind of people are still, like you said, these holdovers are still embedded in the military. And now when they hear congressmen put out rhetoric like this, that tells them this is the green light. I have government support when I go and do whatever that thing is. And guess what? That puts the military people's lives in danger. Because I need to know when we get on that bird or when we get on that boat to go execute the mission, that we're all going to actually execute that mission. Because if you don't, now to protect these guys, you're putting our lives in jeopardy. And where he looked really retarded, and she caught this, and I'm glad she caught it. Well, you know, the problem is we need to attack these problems or these situations before they become a problem. Right. What do you think they're doing?
Amen. Yeah, you and I have had this discussion before, Alpha, and we compared this, you know, because President Trump has declared Tren de Aragua and the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, the same as they did with the Taliban and you know, the terrorists, you know, throughout the Middle East that we went after for 20 years. The difference here, and you and I talked about this on SITREP, the difference here is that those terrorists in Iraq and Afghanistan had zero bearing on the United States. None. Nobody I shot and killed in Afghanistan was ever going to make it over to the United States and do harm to a United States citizen. These drug boats are directly harming United States citizens. There is far more justification. Now, I'm not saying I agree with it or disagree with it, but there is far more justification for bombing these drug boats than there ever was bombing anybody in the Taliban or you know, in the what was the Iraqi Guard called?
Not the
IRGC.
It was the Republican. It was the Iraqi's Republican Guard. No, yeah. I'm thinking. No, it was
the IRG. Whatever it was, they weren't a direct threat to U.S. citizens. These boats are, and we have been spending billions of dollars over the course of forever to stop the drug wars. And you and I both know, you know, based on your conversations with Colonel Towner and just general knowledge, that the drug running is part of the CIA Black Ops funding. Like, this is their black budget, is the drugs that are coming into this country. So of course they're going to fight tooth and nail to stop President Trump from stopping it. Because what happened before, when they would do this interdiction, Alpha, and you know this, is, you know, that you see a Coast Guard cutter approaching you and you're like, oh shit, we're about to get boarded. So what do? You bail off all the drugs. You dump it overboard. Any contraband, anything gets put overboard. And either it's a total loss or you have GPS trackers on it. And when it floats back, you know, you put it on a salt block, it sinks down. And then eventually it's going to rise back up in a few hours and you come back out and you collect your goods and then you try again. And that's all it is. And the Coast Guard pulls these people in and says, well, we're going to hold you for what? I don't have anything. You didn't find anything on my boat. I'm just out for a boat ride. The fuck around, find out time is over. These drugs have been killing American citizens. What President Trump is doing with these drug boats is far more justified than anything we ever did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Period.
Two things is last night with the Colonel, we did Gladio. We actually covered Syntac. And in detail to the CIA's involvement in it. So if anybody wants a very detailed conversation about what Can just said, go watch last night's show that I did with Colonel on Syntac, with specific stories and conversations and even some personal experiences that I shared in there. And you'll have that. And you'll see why they're trying to protect this. But to the other part, one, I 100% support this. Like, I unquestionably support this. I want more of this. But to bring it back to the point he was also trying to make is we need to address this problem before it becomes a problem, which I think this is. But what else has Trump just done and negotiated with China? That's huge on this. To get rid of the precursors for fentanyl. So you're sitting here, Trump just wants to kill innocent people, and he's showing you he's addressing the logistical crisis surrounding this, And he's also addressing the root cause at the very beginning of this. Now, with that, and this is why I would like people to go watch that show on Syntac, is when you look back at some moves that were made like this in the past, where, you know, involved in like Colombia and Bolivia and some other places, when chemicals start to get outlawed, they find the other chemicals, the workarounds to do this. And you'll find, you know, names like the DuPont family and different people that were literally sending the precursors to these other things, to things that they knew were going to turn into drugs that came to the United States. The other thing that Colonel said that really impacted me, bro, is the word drugs in of itself a psyop. Because when you look at what are these precursors, what is the methodology to turn these drugs into eventually what makes its way into a bag or a vial in the United States, it's an entire chemical process. These are chemical weapons. But when we call them drugs, all of a sudden, you know, there's this Hollywood glamour to it. There's, you know, the DEA and Syntac and all this other stuff that's there. But if I told you that the cartels were bringing in a chemical that if Americans injected it or they snorted it, it was going to lead to an overdose, or it was going to, you know, it was going to change the way their brains operate. And I told you that, you'd be like, yeah, it's chemical warfare. And everybody would be on top of that because it applies. But then if I told you, but no, we're just going to call it ecstasy, then all of a sudden there's this trigger that happens in people's brains of, well, then there's this different way that we have to approach it. And, you know, this is still fresh in my memory. It was less than 12 hours ago when we had this conversation, but it did make me kind of take pause to this, especially what we see unfolding with these Congress members.
That's a great point.
This drug money is making its way into their pockets. That's why they're panicking.
Oh, I know, 100%. I mean, I live in South Florida, and I saw somebody in the chat say, I never see drugs wash up on the beach. We see it in South Florida all the time. Weed, cocaine, all the time. I remember the video I played on Y Chromes of the guy that like finds the package and he opens it up and it's full of money and drugs. And he's like, yeah, that happens quite often. I mean, when I used to watch the local news all the time, you'd see it pop up, you know, 20 bales of cocaine found floating. And that's what happens is these boats get boarded by the Coast Guard and they dump their product. And you know, it's just, that's the way it goes. But it's drying up here. Like I mean, I have friends that do recreational drugs, go figure. And it's getting scarce down here. And you're hearing about it from these people. Cause I ask them like, hey, you know, I'm not going to name names, of course, but you know, is it hard to find the stuff down here? And yeah, it's getting tough. So President Trump chimed in on the video by the Democrats. It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set, President DJT. And then he went off again saying this is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up, ? DJT. And then he went off just retruthing everybody talking about this. Some pretty controversial retruths here. Get people out of office. They aren't doing their jobs. They're looking at ways to be rebels and take others with them. They need to go. Insurrection, treason, President Trump retruthed. Sedition, indict all of them. Unlawful is a key word. Hang them, George Washington would. Traitors. I mean, he just went off. Like, he just found it and is like, retruth. I love it. I'm here for it.
He went ham, bro.
He did.
He went ham. But here's the other thing, and I'll be talking about this a little bit later tonight after set rep on a new show I'll be doing. Is remember when Pete Hegseth recalled all the generals to that meeting?
Mm-hmm.
This kind of now there's a different tone here. Is this why these people are panicking? Because a lot of these generals got either checked or scared. We saw some that just resigned. And so now they're realizing they're losing that influence. I think it sings a little different tune on that. And then of course you saw through the truths that you brought up there. Are they setting up Trump with the ability that we're going to see the Insurrection Act? Are we going to see seditious conspiracy charges that start to make their way into some of these RICO cases that are now becoming public. I think some interesting things are about to unfold, and not like a long time from now. I think in the immediate future, we're about to see something very big.
Compare the possibility of what you're implying here to what the man who was just in the Oval Office earlier this week, what he did in his own country when he went in and arrested all the people in his father's administration, or his uncle's, excuse me. No, father's. Salman's nephew was the supposed heir, and then they go like 37 layers deep to find MBS and pull him out. But Gordon talks about this all the time, that the people that MBS arrested were people that were destroying the country itself by imbibing indulging themselves, the 9/11 ties, all sorts of criminal acts, and clean that country up on a way that you'll never, that most people don't understand. Because if you read the mainstream media about it, they say that MBS consolidated power on himself. No, he didn't. He didn't consolidate power on himself. He took away power from people that were corrupt as all hell. And that could, I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but those people that were in that video right there, the CIA officials, please don't ever mix the CIA. Obviously they're embedded in our military, but don't publicly, as a congressman or woman, compare the CIA in the public image to the United States military. It's also not lost on the Alpha that they don't mention the Marine Corps in there. Did you catch that when you listened to it? They said the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, skipped over the Marines because they know we'll be like, yeah, F you, man. So we'll talk about this a lot more, because there's a lot of nuance to what they said, and I think it'll be a good conversation for Sit Rep tonight. So stay tuned for that. On another note, the kayfabe is over, and I want to segue this into the next topic. This isn't like breaking news, but pay attention when President Trump walks into this room. The only person that he physically touches, all those other people there, you got, is that looks like Lutnick right there. You've got all these people there, and the only person, is that General Flynn right there on the left?
No, I don't think so.
No. Yeah, no. The only person he touches is Elon. And then Elon tweets out or posts on X, "I would like to thank President Trump for all he has done for America and the world." And then this is what I think is the best part of the whole kayfabe between Trump and Musk coming to an end. Let's play this clip.
If you think about it, if Kamala, who's the same basic thing, grossly incompetent, he was incompetent. They're all incompetent because their policies are open borders, men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody. They got the worst policy. I don't talk about it too much because if I talk about it, they might change. So, no, I don't talk about it. I tell people, don't talk about it. Wait till 2 weeks before the election and hit the hell out of them. Right? We talked about that, right, Elon? Said we wait 2 weeks before. It's almost like you're in a war. Don't shoot yet. Don't shoot. Hold your fire. The enemy's rushing. Hold your fire. Don't shoot. Okay, now you can go.
Do you know what I'm getting at, Alpha?
I do know what you're getting at. And I actually made a note to remind you to send me that clip because I need it for a conversation piece I'm doing later. So I can say it, or I can let you deliver it.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but what do you think I'm getting at?
Well, if you don't want to put me on the spot, maybe we're thinking about something different. What I was going to say is he's kind of
a whole different topic. A whole different topic.
Okay, then I do know where you're going.
Okay,
and I'll leave it as an option. I don't think that's the case, but I'll leave it as an option when you get there. But for here, I think what Trump is saying is, and I think this is kind of leaning into the Epstein conversation, which ties into that.
That's where I'm going.
That topic that you want to go into is he's saying exactly what we've been saying. It's he knows how to. If it go back to COVID, right? I'll be careful how I say this because I know we're on YouTube here.
You can speak freely on YouTube now. I talk about COVID all the time. Never had it.
Do you? Or I like that. Very cool. No more having to use freaking secret words and code words and stuff.
Fauci, ouchie.
Exactly. But if you go back to that, if Trump would have came out and said, oh, COVID's fake, he would have got destroyed. They would have leveled them. They would have pushed harder on them. When he started, if people forget this, bro, when he came out and was talking about, I'm the father of the jab, it's the greatest thing. Do you remember what Kamala Harris said?
Yeah, I'm not getting it.
I'm not getting it.
Yep.
Because this is the mentality that they've installed in people's brains. Whatever Trump says and whatever Trump does, do the opposite. And Trump just confirmed that in this video. Since I know they operate this way, this is the way I deploy my strategy. He actually gave vindication to all of us in what we've been explaining. So I can leave it there so you can carry on with it, or I can keep going. It's up to you.
Well, so first off, I think it's funny that he says he uses the comparison, don't shoot until, 2 weeks before, when I think it was last week when I was talking about the setup that Trump has put in place with the Epstein files. And I've been saying this since day one when he said it's a hoax, whatever. I've been saying this since day one. This is an attempt by President Trump to get the demand from the other side to release the files. He now has that demand, and it's gone all the way through. When saying that, people are like, why is he still pushing back? And my exact words were, don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes. And now he's saying, don't shoot until the timing is perfect. The timing is perfect. The trap has been sprung, and we're going to get, the quote unquote Epstein files. And it's gonna absolutely decimate the Democrats.
I like that point you made right there about until you see the whites of their eyes, with reference to what he said. I really like that.
Yeah. So this is the truth. And by the way, I'll put that link in the private chat for you for that clip. Let me do that now before I forget. All right. Boom. There you go. All right. So this is President Trump's truth. Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged by the Trump Justice Department in 2019. Point we've made here. Who's the one that put Epstein and Maxwell in prison? Trump. The guy that everybody thinks, whatever. He's the one that put him in prison. His administration. Was a lifelong Democrat, donated thousands of dollars to Democrat politicians, and was deeply associated with many well-known Democrat figures, such as Bill Clinton, who traveled on his plane 26 times, Larry Summers, who just resigned from many boards, including Harvard, sleazebag political activist Reid Hoffman, minority leader Hakeem Jeffries, who asked Epstein to donate to his campaign after Epstein was charged, and also invited him to an Obama dinner that Obama, as president, not as a former president, as president, was going to be present at. That is something everybody's missing on this. I pointed this out yesterday. Obama was going to, you invited a pedophile to a dinner with the president of the United States. Let that sink in.
Of course he did. $30,000 worth of hot dogs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Democrat Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett and many more. Perhaps the truth about these Democrats and their associations with Epstein will soon be revealed, because I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. As everybody knows, I asked Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune to pass the bill in the House and Senate respectively. I hate the way that Truth does that. You can't just click down. Oh my goodness, did I lose my spot now? Sorry, guys. Why is it not searching?
A little bit higher.
Truth is clunky, man. Oh, wow. Good call. To pass the bill in the House and Senate, respectively, because of this request, the votes were almost unanimous in favor of passage. At my direction, the DOJ has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden admin did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever speak about him. Democrats have used the Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, in order to try and distract from our amazing victories, including the great big beautiful tax cut bill, strong borders, no men and women's sports, transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's record, setting inflation, lowering prices, biggest tax and regulation cuts in history, ending 8 wars, rebuilding our military, knocking out Iran's nuclear capability, getting trillions of dollars invested in the USA, creating the hottest country anywhere in the world, and even delivering a huge defeat to the Democrats on the recent shutdown disaster. For years, our great nation has had to endure Russia, 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 Ukraine, 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 impeachment hoax 1, impeachment hoax 2. Are those links? What do they link to?
I think just because he put,
because he put the hashtag.
Yeah.
Okay. Impeachment hoax 1, impeachment hoax 2, and many other Democrat-created witch hunts and scams, all of which have been so terrible and divisive for our country and have been done to confuse, deflect, and distract from the great job that Republicans and the Trump administration are doing. This latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats just as all the rest have. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. All right, that was a long-winded truth. I think it's very important that we read that because, you know, this is going to be the ultimate rug pull. I said that yesterday. I said it, you know, a couple times when we've talked about this. Just release the documents. Trump played this perfectly. Wait till the very end. Everybody's clamoring over these documents. Both sides are wanting them released, and they're all pointing at Trump as if he's the bad guy. And when they get these documents and they can't find shit on Trump, but they find, you know, Larry Summers and Reid Hoffman and Bill Clinton and everybody else in there, they're going to be like, oh, shit, we got had. And that's what he means when he says a Russia hoax. But it goes even deeper than that. The Russia hoax on its face appeared to be pretty incriminating against President Trump on its face. But then when you dig a little deeper, you see that there's a lot of Democrat involvement. But then when you dig even really deep on the Russia hoax, what do you find out? That there's intelligence all over this. FBI, CIA, NSA, like all over it. And we're going to see the same thing with the Epstein files. It's going to take a while to see it, but this is not the Epstein files that we want are not these emails and this little bullshit that we're going to get. We want to know who his handlers were. We don't want, if we going after Epstein is like getting somebody for, it's like getting somebody for a small crime instead of going after the network that enabled that crime. You know, maybe you can articulate this better than me.
We actually had this conversation last night too, because this one hurts personally. So I'll give the short version of what I explained last night. You know, when I was put in charge of an operation and there's a window that you have that's considered reasonable to facilitate that operation, and, you know, you're giving updates, you know, to the chief of police or to the sheriff in your progress in order to kind of extend that. But ultimately you're talking, you know, hundreds of thousands, in some situations, millions of dollars, depending on, you know, how many agencies and allies are part of these operations. You know, you have to justify that. And so when you're showing the boss, this is who we've identified so far, this is where we're going, that's what's going to allow them to give you some extensions. But then there comes a point where they're going to say, listen, we need, bring them all in, take it down now. And you do. And on the surface, everybody's excited. Everybody's happy at that point because you're going to be in the headlines. You're going to see the front page things. You're going to see tables of guns and narcotics and, you know, all these photos of these gang members that are taken down. The city is a safer place. The citizens do get to see that their law enforcement was doing what you're employing them to do. But this is the part that's not talked about. And I didn't have this vision then because I just didn't know. But if you pull any of those case agents aside and say, hey, if I give you another 6 months or a year, can you get to the top? 90% of them are going to tell you, fuck yeah, I can. Yeah, that gives me a time to develop this informant. And yeah, we can actually take down this entire thing. But they never give you that time to do it. And it's because, well, we need to do this so the public can see. And so that's how it plays into this situation. Is it's just not designed to go down that way. Why? Because if you look at it, it's kind of like what do they say with doctors? You know, we can't heal our customers. Well, if you eradicate the criminal program, there goes the grants, there goes the growth of, you know, the agency. Like all that stuff starts to get torn away because there's not really a need for it anymore. So this keeps that cycle in its loop. I do want to say this though, because I have this thought running. I'm starting to freaking Josh's autism's rubbing off on me, bro, where I got these multiple thoughts in my head. So I want to put this one out to the universe before it goes away. Do you want me to tell you what's going to happen next? So we can clip this with regards to the Epstein.
Go for it.
And I think John, because I saw John put out a post, I think John may kind of be suspecting this, or at least part of this. There's verbiage in there for items to remain classified. So anybody that thinks we're going to get everything on Epstein, not going to happen. Because Bondi has the ability to keep stuff classified. Now, what Brian just said, I agree completely. They're going to see it's a nothing burger when it comes to President Trump. But this is where they're focused. This is what's going to happen next. The next Epstein agenda is going to be on the redacted information and the stuff that remains classified. This is, that's where Trump's at. That's where Trump's at. That's why Bondi's covering from. That's where he's at. And I'm going to tell you why it's still classified, because this vindicates me. There's two potentials here. Is if the Epstein case is done, because this is what all the panicans were screaming about when that DOJ memo came out. Oh, look, they didn't pay attention that the word said systemic review. Oh, look, see, there's nothing there. There's nothing to show that there's an investigation. That everybody panics. The investigation's done. This was the agenda that the deep state panicans were pushing. If you're keeping information classified, it's either you still have a minor victim, which means at this point, if you still have a minor victim, then that means that is a recent crime. That's something that happened in the last couple of years because they haven't aged out into an adult. Or you're dealing with a situation of an ongoing investigation.
Exactly.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I've been saying. I know Ken's been saying. There is an Epstein investigation that's going on right now, and it is a RICO investigation. And so what Trump is doing is he's walking them in and he's walking them in and he's walking them in, because the next phase of when they start screaming about that redacted part, well, that's going to be too late, because that's when you're going to start seeing indictments coming out for these clowns.
And let's play. I think this is the clip that backs that up. And you're spot on, Alpha. We've been saying for the whole time that like releasing these files would be detrimental to any ongoing investigations. And people say, well, Epstein, they announced the Epstein investigations closed. Into Epstein, yes, because he's dead. Doesn't mean there's not investigations going beyond that. And like you said, you know, it could be RICO, could be, you know, could be individuals, who knows? But again, I still firmly believe that President Trump was the informant on this, at least in the early goings. I don't know how much it continued after that. You know, he's, what is he now? 79? I think he'll be 80 next year. I think he's 79. Maybe we'll get a disclosure that he's been the informant all along. There was a lot of attempts early on in his first term to get him unmasked as an informant.
Mike Johnson came out and said it, and then later on he's like, hey.
In 2016, they gave the glow room response. You know, I can neither confirm nor deny that he was in, you know, those documents. So, all right, but let's play this clip here. And I think this is the clip. I'm playing this just blindly, but I think this is where Bondi admits that there's an ongoing investigation.
New investigation by the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney prevent the department from releasing all of the remaining files.
So we have released over 33,000 Epstein documents to the Hill, and we'll continue to follow the law and to have maximum transparency. Also, we will always encourage all victims to come forward.
What are the next steps, Madam Attorney General, for the DOJ regarding what we assume President Trump will sign into law with the Epstein files? Is this going to be on the Justice Department website? What are you doing here over the next 30 days, as we understand it?
We will continue to follow the law with maximum transparency while protecting victims.
Okay, so I think she admits there that, you know, the ongoing investigation, but we've known that, you know, they've always said that. It's just the trap was sprung. President Trump played them like a fiddle, like an absolute fiddle. Kamala came out last week and said, I'm playing 3D chess. Did you see that clip?
I didn't, bro. Send me that one,
bro. You didn't see this clip?
No.
Oh my. Hold on.
She did not say that.
She said, I'm playing 3D chess.
This is not AI. Are you trying to get me to sign off on any AI watermarks?
This is on a podcast.
Was aware of my opponent's strategy, and I wasn't about to fall prey or fall into those traps. And part of his strategy and those around him was to try and take me off our game and message. And I wasn't about to be distracted by those flames that he was trying to throw.
Can you pause it real quick?
107, yes.
Wait. One of my highest priority was talking to people about the economy and their well-being in terms of their financial well-being. And that's, so I understood the game that was being played, and I made a decision that I wasn't going to get played. And
chess, not checkers. Got it.
Chess, not checkers.
Yeah, three-dimensional chess. I'm telling you. You know,
there it is.
She's literally retarded.
That was Michael Malice, by the way, talking about Kamala.
Dude, send that one to the private chat, please.
I am already on it.
For those that aren't tracking why I told John to, or told Brian to pause it, is the title of her book says 107 days. And for those that follow the boards, what do? We strike out zeros. And so it literally gives you 17. And you go look at what the 17th letter of the alphabet is, folks.
Yeah.
Controlled. Three-dimensional chess.
we did get this little gem from Plaskett, not from Plaskett, from Crockett about Plaskett.
Stacey didn't initiate that chain. Jeffrey initiated that chain, and she took the information. Just like if somebody texts me.
Yeah, but she was responding and saying, what are you talking about? Quick, I'm up next. And then her questions were about Rona. But do you think that was inappropriate? I mean, would you text with someone who is a registered sex offender about what you should ask?
I honestly know that he had never been convicted of any federal crimes at that time.
But he had been in jail already.
He had been in jail. And my deal is this. The Republicans are constantly texting with a 34-count convicted felon. So if it's okay for them to text him at any point in time, then I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong, especially to the extent that you're talking about kicking someone off their committee. Were they sexting? Was it a matter of her being involved in the pedophilia? No, it was nothing like that. She was trying to understand.
You know what I would have hit her with? Yeah, because here's the thing. We knew that they were going to start trying to play that analogy. So this is the question you should ask. Okay, well, let me just ask you this. You're a mother, you have kids, you have someone that's changing their life, and they got a prior conviction for passing a bad check. You going to give them a chance? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Next person comes and applies to take care of your kid, and they got a history of pedophilia and sexual assault against kids, but they're telling you they're changing their life. You going to hire them?
Nope.
Not a damn chance. Do not compare a freaking pedophile, a convicted pedophile, nowhere even close. Even if we wanted to stipulate that Trump was guilty to the fabricated charges that they brought against them, it still is not the same arena, not even remotely close. But that just tells you these people are sick, bro.
They're fucking they're either sick or they're absolutely retarded. And it could be both. It could be both. Yeah. All right. Pam Bondi put this out, and I don't know much about this other than what she says here, but I love to hear this. It also pisses me off to no end, but I love to hear it.
Just this week, Joint Task Force Alpha took 4 major enforcement actions. Right here in Tampa, we unsealed the indictment charging 12 defendants operating right here in Tampa, a massive illegal smuggling ring. The defendants engaged in a conspiracy to bring illegal aliens from Cuba to the U.S. for profit. They coached their clients, including children, who came to airports alone, came to our country alone, were put on planes for connecting flights, lied to Border Patrol agents due to coaching and law enforcement. They charged up to $40,000 per victim. They used Zelle to transfer over $7 million over the course of this scheme, and I believe had cash of over 18 million.
Love to see it. And that's no surprise. Like, Tampa is Cigar City, and there's a lot of Cuban influence in Tampa. So, you know, that in and of itself is not necessarily shocking, but yeah, love to see it.
Empty Guns in the chat says release the SDNY Epstein files. They've already actually hinted at this, you guys, and that's what's important. This especially came back to, I think it was last week or the week before, the Clinton Foundation.
Oh yeah.
When you trace back the Clinton Foundation, what is that going to take you back to? Anthony Weiner.
Yep.
And what is Anthony Weiner going to take you back to? A laptop. And what allegedly is in that laptop? The insurance file.
Oh, the insurance file?
Well, he called it the insurance file.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say. I was gonna say that. I was like, the insurance file. What were we talking about?
And that opens the floodgate for some crazy stuff that's out there.
You're already starting to see the pivot, and they're, you know, they're kind of on their heels right now because they didn't expect Trump to go this far, and not only that, you know, I don't know. You saw the Johnson clip yesterday or 2 days ago where he was like freaking out about the Senate passing the bill without the amendments. I think that's kabuki theater. I think that's
big time, bro.
Yeah, they're just trying, like, because if you think about it, like Democrats, you remember the Joker in Dark Knight when he's like, I'm like a dog chasing a car. Even if I catch it, I'm not going to know what to do with it. Right. That's what the Democrats are at right now. They're like, holy shit, we caught the car. We got the Epstein files. Now what do we do with them? None of those motherfuckers are going to sit back and go through them the way that we're going to go through them. None of them are going to be clicking around and sharing this. They'll find, you know, somebody that's doing a little bit of research and they'll reshare their stuff without doing the context like we did with the dog that don't bark and went deep on that. They won't do any of that work. They'll just take it at face value and say, this is damning against Trump. We got him this time. And then it blows up in their face again. And that's
if you ever want to see real-time panic, go on YouTube and look up PBD, the Patrick Bet David podcast. Actually, you can even find it on X, probably with the search terms. And look at when he had on Podesta. Dude,
I remember that.
Bro,
I remember that.
I clipped the entire thing. It's a great interview. Now, there's times where I wanted, you know, Patrick to go a little deeper, but considering the level where he operates, it was a phenomenal job the way he made Podesta just look cornered, bro. And he brings up the laptop.
Yeah.
And he brings up the officers that died. Now, granted, he doesn't make the connection of the deaths to the laptop, you know, but he does kind of insinuate that there. And you just see Podesta, oh, you're pushing a conspiracy theory, or you're pushing this. And Patrick David just starts reading all the names of the people connected to the Clintons that are dead. It's a phenomenal one. Well, the way Podesta responded there is what you're about to see on a massive scale with everybody as all this Epstein stuff starts to unfold.
And I remember that podcast. It wasn't done in his studio. It was done at like it was a different kind of studio. I remember that one specifically. But yeah, that's exactly what you're going to see. You're going to see them start pivoting from, now they're going to go from release the files. They're getting the files. They caught the car. They caught the dog that caught the car. And now they're going to start freaking out and saying, well, they've had it for so long that it could be doctored and it's all going to be fake. And, you know, they're going to be stuff. They're redacting all the Republicans and they're not redacting anybody else. And you're just going to see all the fucking excuses, right? Excuses are like assholes. Everybody has one and they all stink. That's all you're going to see from these people now. And it's going to be glorious. The President Trump with this bill right here, the way he played this was absolute perfection. You know, well, most likely. I mean, I think we're all 99.9 sure that there's not going to be anything damning against President Trump specifically. All bets are off for anybody in the GOP. All bets are off for anybody in the DNC, you know, for anybody else. But President Trump is the one person that I am pretty damn certain is not going to appear negatively in those files. And you're going to watch the Dems have to pivot on this.
I agree. I actually would love to see if there's more information to suggest or reveal that Trump was cooperating as an informant. I did see M.I. White 1963 in the chat says no flag on Cheney's coffin. And because I've been wanting to see, is it going to be a wrinkled flag or something? So I haven't confirmed it. I was trying to see if I can find some video or images of it right now, and I can't find a live one that shows it just yet. but I am very curious. But I can't imagine that there's no flag. Like there would have to have a. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not an impossibility, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well.
It's not live anywhere. If you've got a link to that, put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Not,
was
not you. I mean, for M.I. Whitey. Was it Whitey? M.I. Whitey.
I lost it. It was I think it was M.I. White 63 or 1963.
Okay. Well, let's jump into this story here because I think this might be the biggest nothing burger, and everybody seems to be freaking out about this. And you know, I've been texting back and forth with our mutual friend who is a former federal prosecutor, and this is a nothing right here. So let's dive into this from Fox News. Federal judge calls Comey indictment into question, asks if Halligan is a quote unquote puppet for Trump. Now, everybody's saying that the grand jury did not see the actual indictment against Comey and therefore it's going to be thrown out. That is absolutely not true. And I'll show you guys that Halligan is absolutely right here. Nachmanoff is being an absolute partisan hack. And let's dive into this. The DOJ, a federal judge grilled the DOJ saying that they mishandled the grand jury indictment against Comey and asked if interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan acted at the behest of President Trump. Judge Michael Nachmanoff found that Halligan signed an indictment alleging 2 charges against Comey, but that document was never presented to the full grand jury, a revelation that could imperil the case if Nachmanoff decides it is enough to delegitimize the indictment. Let's keep going. Halligan confirmed that she presented a prior indictment that showed 3 charges against Comey to the grand jury. The jurors rejected one of those charges, leading Halligan to later sign a second indictment, leaving off that charge. Tyler Lemons, the federal prosecutor who argued on behalf of the DOJ, said that the indictments were identical and that the second one was created as soon as the grand jury proceedings concluded and merely excised the one charge that the grand jury rejected. Nachmanoff did not make any decision about the validity of the indictment from the bench and instead ordered more briefing on the matter. The grand jury dispute was part of a broader hearing centered on Comey's argument that his charges were a product of Trump's vindictiveness and should be tossed out entirely. Nachmanoff asked Dreeben, the attorney for Comey, if Halligan was a quote-unquote puppet or a stalking horse who was doing Trump's bidding. That is ridiculous right there. For a judge to disparage an attorney that's presenting in their court by calling them a puppet or a stalking horse, that's not them saying that to the judge. That's the judge saying that to them. That is fucking absurd. Have you ever
imagine if the attorney responded back and said, Your Honor, are your statements because you're a puppet of Obama?
Right. That judge would have kicked him out of the courtroom in 2 seconds.
Would have held him in contempt and thrown him in jail for a day.
This was insane that the judge asked that question. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Dreeben, and even the attorney knew. Listen, Dreeben responded that he would not use those words, but that his team believed Halligan was operating at the direction of Trump. Well, I mean, it's the U.S. attorney. But I mean, even the attorney was like, whoa. I don't know if I'd say a puppet or a stalking horse.
The attorney's like, I'm not signing on that.
I'm not getting in bed with that statement. Dreeben said that Trump had a years-long vendetta against Comey, who has been a vocal opponent of Trump since the president fired him in 2017. And I think that's it from this article. But I do want to jump over to Politico because I want to get both sides, right? Fox is supposed to be the quote-unquote right-leaning, Politico the quote-unquote left-leaning. And this was, of course, by Kyle Cheney and Josh.
Let me just add one part to that. You know, for the people that are like, well, the judge is saying that even though it's an identical document, that she just redacted the one or removed the one charge.
Don't go there. Don't go there yet. Don't go there because that's the pinnacle of all this. I know exactly where you're going, and I've got the Supreme Court precedent to back it up. A federal judge plans to revive criminal contempt proceedings against Trump. Wait, this is not it. Excuse me. I jumped ahead. That's another story. From Politico, Comey case hanging by a thread as judge squeezes DOJ over Halligan's handling. Save that for why, Chromes. She does have the the boss glasses, you know, the Snoop Dogg glasses. Like those are exactly those glasses right there. Nachmanoff pressed prosecutors during a hearing questioning whether the entire grand jury ever saw the 2-count indictment that a magistrate judge received after the grand jurors rejected one of these charges proposed by interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan. Nachmanoff asked her to explain whether the grand jurors beyond the 4-person were present when the original indictment and narrower substitute one were presented to a magistrate judge. Remember that word, a narrower substitute one. That's an important term. Quote, the 4-person and another grand juror were also present, Halligan said, apparently confirming that all the grand jury members present that day did not see the substitute indictment prepared after the group declined one of the false statement charges Halligan urged. Assistant U.S. Attorney Tyler Lemon suggested the replacement indictment was a necessity due to the grand jury turning down one of the proposed charges. Quote, they really had no other way to return it. Although there is no pending defense motion challenging the indictment on the grounds the judge raised. Think about that, Alpha. This wasn't an argument that Comey's attorneys made. This is the judge injecting himself into this case in saying this. And the reason that that's important is because it's going to show you the bias that this judge has, because the judge is fucking wrong. The judge is flat out wrong here. Michael Dreeben seized on the issue, saying, quote, there is no indictment, he said, adding that the statute of limitations ran out on September 30th. And I think that's it from this article. So let's first, you know what, you were going to make the point, so I'll let you make the point first.
Yeah. So here's the thing I'm saying. That the indictment is identical. She removed a charge from the indictment. Nothing to the context of the indictment, just the charge. So the judge is making the argument, well, then that needs to get presented to the grand jury so that they can see this. When the judge knows, because I guarantee you, I will bet my life that the judge has signed indictments and search warrants where the investigator, the prosecutors come in and said, here's my search warrant. And the judge says, I'm going to approve all these areas to be searched, but not that one. And then the investigator says, okay, pulls out their laptop, goes to their car, runs back to the office, highlights, deletes, comes back, says, hey, Your Honor, remove that charge. And then what does the judge say? Okay, raise your hand under penalty of perjury that everything in this document is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge again. The judge doesn't reread that entire search warrant. He's taking it on the affirmation of the affiant, right? That this is what they're saying. So when she signs her name on that new indictment that has the charge removed, that same perjury oath is there with her signature, and he knows that.
Yes.
This is such BS, and it shows the one-sidedness that this is gonna take. I would hope to see this person recused.
Has to be now. Has to be. This is from the Criminal Resource Manual 236. Amendments of indictments. The general rule is that indictments cannot be amended in substance. Quote, an amendment to an indictment occurs when the charging terms of an indictment are altered. They have not been altered. One has been removed. Nothing has been altered. If the indictment could be changed by the court or by the prosecutor, then it would no longer be the indictment returned by the grand jury. Indeed, in Russell versus United States, the court pointed out that a consequence of amending the indictment is that the defendant, quote, could then be convicted on the basis of facts not found and perhaps not even presented to the grand jury which indicted him. The problem is, Alpha, just like you articulated, every fact has already been presented to the grand jury, and all they did was simply remove the one charge that the grand jury says, no, there is no probable cause for this charge. Everything else is identical. The idea that that Halligan and the prosecutor have to go back to a grand jury and present the same exact thing, albeit the charge that was removed, is absurd. It says, quote, thus the Fifth Amendment forbids amendment of an indictment by the court, whether actual or constructive. Ex parte Bain in United States v. Miller holds that, quote, it does not constitute an unconstitutional amendment to an indictment to drop those allegations which are unnecessary to an offense that is clearly contained within it. Further, an amendment for the excising removal of surplusage that has the effect of narrowing defendant's liability without changing the meaning of the charge as it was presented to the grand jury is permissible. That's United States v. Williams, 1981. Let's jump over to Cornell. Cornell says, quote, and this is quoting the article, not a citation, a person can be tried only upon the indictment as found by the grand jury, in particular upon the language in the charging part of the instrument. A change in the indictment that does not narrow its scope, deprives the court of the power to try the accused. Alpha, if you're removing a charge, is that narrowing the scope or expanding the scope?
It is narrowing the scope.
So a change in the indictment that does not narrow the scope, meaning the opposite, expands the scope, deprives the court of any power to try the accused. That's not what they're doing here. It says, although additions to offenses alleged in an indictment are prohibited, the Supreme Court has ruled that it is permissible to, quote, drop from an indictment those allegations that are unnecessary to an offense that is clearly contained within it, end quote, as, for example, a lesser included offense. And then if you jump down to the actual citation, it says Ex parte Bain, 1887, United States v. Cotton. The Supreme Court overruled Ex parte ban in United States v. Miller in 1985 to the extent that it held that a narrowing of an indictment is impermissible. So the Supreme Court has already overturned this. I don't know why people are making a big deal of this. There's even people on our side that are out there saying this. And, I was reading through stuff.
Well, here's the answer. Why? Laziness.
Yes. Well, and it's laziness perceived as I know what I'm talking about. And that's crazy. Now, there are other parts that have been argued that there are other issues with this, and I'll acknowledge those. But this indictment issue is a nothing burger. It is an absolute nothing burger. They did nothing wrong specifically in regards to removing that indictment and then having the foreperson and the magistrate sign off on the revised indictment, the narrowed indictment. And again, I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that a federal judge brought this up on his own in the court after calling the DOJ attorney a puppet or a stalking horse. That is disgusting, man. This case this judge has got to be removed and recused from this case.
Well, here's the question people are probably going to ask, but why? And here's why. The judge is not stupid. The judge knows, whether he knows this case law or not, he knows that this is a practice that is not unique. He understands that. But why is he trying to create the controversy? Because he wants to paint a picture in the psychological agenda that him and the deep state are pushing, that there's going to be a pattern of recklessness in this indictment, so that as he moves down the line and he moves into one of these other allegations surrounding the indictment, he gets to make a statement on the stand that from the inception of this, we have been dealing with issues, and in the interest of justice, I'm dismissing this indictment. He's trying to set up the pathway to do this, and he's starting with this, which he knows it's the weakest one, because ultimately he wants to close it with whatever he thinks the strongest one is, which that doesn't exist as well. Here's the thing people need to understand. You can go give me any indictment from the best attorney you think that's out there, and if that indictment is an indictment that's 50 plus pages, I guarantee you I'll find 20 mistakes in it. I guarantee you, I'll bet the house on it. Because the thing that people don't understand is your penal code book, your federal book, all your jury instruction, these books are this big, and case laws are constantly changing. And there's always these unique circumstances that fall into these investigations and these prosecutions. And it's easy to show an error that's present somewhere there. And that's why you have the courts that can look at something and be like, okay, Is this something that reaches to the level of the fruit of the poisonous tree, or is this something that's administrative, or is this something that's prosecutorial misconduct? And they don't have to completely dismiss the case over these things. And sometimes there'll be either a charge that would an independent charge that gets dismissed, or they'll just say, hey, we need something like this. And you'll have a case where a prosecutor will call a detective and say, hey, can you write a supplemental on this to correct a record or expand upon it so there's more clarification? And so all this is just manipulation to support what he wants to do, which is ultimately dismiss it.
So just to clarify, someone in the chat was saying that this is not the judge that's presiding over it. Yes, we're talking about Nachmanoff, the federal judge presiding over it. I think that what this person is talking about is William Fitzpatrick, who is the magistrate judge who's been dealing with the kind of procedural stuff here. And Just the News has this where it says, and this is what I was talking about. There are other issues with this case, but none involving what we just talked about, the indictment itself and whether or not the grand jury heard the second indictment, because there is no requirement for them to represent the same exact thing, just minus that case. But Just the News writes, on Monday, Magistrate Judge William Fitzpatrick, a veteran of the same U.S. Attorney's Office in Virginia, issued an opinion harshly criticizing what he saw as Halligan's mishandling of the grand jury process in late September, accusing her of misleading the grand jurors and concluding that grand jury materials should be handed over to Comey's defense team in a separate Wednesday evening court filing. Halligan and the DOJ prosecutors pushed back on those contentions as well. That's a whole nother issue. That's not the one I'm focused on right now, because what everybody in the mainstream is talking about, that's why you get a headline from Politico, hanging by a thread, because the judge inserted himself into the case and talked about this indictment, knowing full well, like, this is almost as bad as going back, maybe not as bad, to the judge in Colorado when he was didn't know what a Brady violation was, right? Didn't know what a Brady motion was during his appointment. This is almost as bad, not quite as bad, knowing that although this is probably more commonplace, like, I would assume that you would see more indictments where, they bring it to the judge to sign off on it. And they're like, hey, Your Honor, we had to drop the grand jury didn't find this count and this count. So we slashed them. We 86 them. Funny talking 86 with Comey. We 86 them from the indictment, and everything else is as it was presented. Like, that's got to be standard procedure.
I wouldn't say it's standard, but it's common.
Well, that would be, I'm saying, when I say standard procedure, how many DAs and prosecutors go back and actually represent the case, right? And they're like, hey, we took off 3 and 4, so let me do the same exact thing we just did a week ago. Let me do the same exact thing again and take 5 more days of your time to go over this.
They don't. And I mean, to supplement what I said earlier on signing it when something, let's just say the prosecutor did change some context in the indictment. All they're going to do is present that specific page or paragraph to the judge. He's still not going to reread the entire indictment. He's going to take it on the oath of perjury that we're now reviewing is the only change and everything else has remained the same. So, and in this case, it's even more simplified than that. None of the context was changed. It's literally just a charge being removed.
Yep. Hold on one second. All right. I got a couple more stories. I do want to talk about this one, although this will probably be another good story to bring up on SitRep, because we talked about it last week as well. Blaze Media put out a new piece. Before we get into that, though, actually, I just got the nod of approval. We do have another sponsor that we need to talk about, guys. Hey, fellas, you tired of wasting ammo trying to sight in that new optic that you got? I hate that. That is one of the worst things ever. Having to go BZO your rifle is the worst. So you tired of wasting ammo to try and sight in the new optic? Well, then you're not Rambo. You're just burning away money. Meet the Bore, the little laser gadget that saves your wallet and your pride. Just pop it in, turn it on, and bam, your sights are zeroed faster, and your buddy can say, I think you're shooting low. No more guessing, no more range trips that cost more than date night. And let's be honest, she's still mad about the last one. The Bore gets you dialed in before you even fire a shot. That means more hits, less cussing, and a whole lot more bragging rights. So quit wasting ammo and start shooting smart. The Bore, cheaper than marriage counseling and way more accurate. grab yours before your buddy does and start taking credit for your aim. And the link is in the pinned to the top of the chat right now. Laser bore sights are the greatest thing ever. So get you one. And thank you to the bore. All right, let's jump into this. Blaze Media police walked right past the DNC pipe bomb to first look under a bush where bomber sat 17 hours earlier. I'm just going to read this little intro. We'll probably get a little more deep in it because we only got 14 minutes left. An 8-inch long steel pipe with end caps and a kitchen timer, 9-volt battery, and various wires was planted in plain sight under a bench at the Democratic National Committee building. Somehow, it escaped the notice of two U.S. Capitol police officers who walked right past it 15 minutes after a dispatcher warned of a pipe bomb at the nearby Republican National Committee building. Interesting. The plainclothes counter surveillance officers instead proceeded straight to the Congressional Black Caucus Institute building a few hundred feet east of the DNC. One of them stopped at a large bush along the alley that led up to New Jersey Avenue. At 1:03 p.m., the officer backed up, ducked, and peered under the shrub. After a brief pause, he stood back up and continued on the return trek to the DNC. And that's where he discovered the second pipe bomb just 2 minutes later. These two bushes are the only ones the officers are seen looking under in the 11 minutes and 14 seconds that they're captured on available surveillance footage. What's significant enough about the bush next to the CBCI building to warrant specific attention? What was significant enough to warrant specific attention? And why has the FBI never disclosed this detail? A review of new footage shows that police officers stopped at the exact bush, which 17 hours earlier, previously released footage shows the hoodie-wearing pipe bomber sitting. Now, me and Alpha had a little brief disagreement before the show. You have more law enforcement experience in this regard than me, but I have plenty of experience walking point in Afghanistan where every step could be a bomb. And I know about complacency and I know about, specific targets and all that. So give me your take.
I wouldn't say it's a disagreement. What I'm saying is I need more information is where my position is. If you're looking at surveillance video, and this is why I love body cams. The majority of police officers love body cams. It's the unions in law enforcement that don't like body cams because it ultimately is going to render them useless because the cases solve themselves, just so people understand that. But the one issue with the body cam is you're limited to the scope of what the camera captures. The other issue is it's what the camera captures. It doesn't mean that's what I was looking at.
Right.
It also doesn't mean that that's all I could see. And people have to remember this when we're talking about body cameras or surveillance. Surveillance is showing us a person walking, the direction their head is facing. It's not covering their peripheral vision, and it's not covering the direction that their eyes are actually looking. And so if a camera's covering a broad spectrum of something and a person comes off, these people, assuming they're not like a rookie, they've probably been on the job for a good minute and they know these locations like the back of their hand. So they know, if I was going to put something, where would I possibly put it? And those are the locations you're going to look at while you're scanning with your peripheral vision, everything else, and that's why I'm saying just because the officer is walking straight up to a bush that's not an indicator that they knew where it was planted. It's is that bush close to the pathway? Is that a big bush close to the pathway? Is that bush in the area that would cause, structural damage? Or is that bush in the location where you would anticipate people would be at? There's like a lot of things you have to weigh into why that's that particular section. And I'll use this as an example. When I was doing the canine handler thing at some of these large sporting events, is it possible for me to cover that entire stadium in the limited window that they give me? Absolutely not. So what areas am I focusing on? Choke points. Where do you expect a lot of people to be at one point? Where are some points where it would create significant structural damage that would cause, casualties? Where's a point that would be an egress route? These are the things that we're looking into. So if you get a call of, there's a device or a suspicious item, that you're going to look. And the reason I say this is because this would people freak people out, but in a lot of, it's not an uncommon call actually in law enforcement, and they're usually designated as a suspicious package or a package that's unattended. But you're supposed to approach that with the mindset of something that, and you know this from your experience and my experience, you approach that with, it's a possible explosive device, all the way down to you're not using your radios, you're not creating frequencies, until you've rendered that it is a nothing burger. But complacency does come into play. And that's what I'm saying. Is this an issue of complacency, or is this an issue at the opposite end of the spectrum of somebody that's just well-versed in what they're doing and knows what areas to look for? And I think that they're actually watering down the information that they are by kind of making insinuations on stuff like this that's limited to just a surveillance video.
All right, well, there it is. No American flag.
What is that, like a Catholic flag or something?
I don't know. I don't know what that flag is. But yeah, this was pointed out. Max Love and Glory in the chat. I think it was, Max Love and Glory sent this Reuters link. Bro, look how rough W looks. Is that a mask?
Well, you know, the Obamas aren't there.
They're not?
No.
He looks rough, dude. Like, he looks rough. I don't know, man. So thank you for that, for sending that over. That is interesting. I don't know. I'm sure there's an explanation for it.
I'm very curious to what that flag is.
Yeah. Well, and why he doesn't have the American flag draped. I mean, that should be above everything else, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So getting back to the Blaze story, and this is my big problem, and I'm just gonna put this thought out there and see, and I'll give you a quick response. The thing that gets me is, it says right here, it says one of them stopped at the large bush. Well, they went straight to the Congressional Black Caucus Institute building, right? The plainclothes counter surveillance officer instead proceeded straight to the CBCI building, a few hundred feet from the DNC, stopped at a large bush, looked, peered under the shrub. After a brief pause, stood back up and continued his return trek to the DNC, where he discovered the second pipe bomb just 2 minutes later. Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we know that the planter of the pipe bomb first planted it at the CBCI building and then moved it to the DNC? Don't we know this? Like, this is in the facts, right?
Well, there was two locations that had bombs planted. You're talking about the order.
There was the RNC and there was the DNC,
right?
But wasn't it originally placed at the CBCI building, which is right next to the DNC, and then they moved it to the DNC, or was it the other way around? No,
I don't know on that one. You'll have to school me on that one.
Well, we know. So the article acknowledges that the person sat on the bench. It says, right, a new review of video footage shows that police officers stopped at the exact bush at which 17 hours earlier, previously released footage shows the hoodie-wearing pipe bomber sitting. So the pipe bomber definitely sat at the CBCI building. That's where the guy went to go look. Then went to the DNC and found the bomb.
Yeah, now, but on that part is, if the bush is in that location, that is a common location for people to go by. Why is that shocking?
Because the guy goes past the DNC where the bomb was to where the bomb originally was planted, as if the person made an audible, a play call. Omaha, let's put it by DNC instead of by the CBCI. But the cop that was investigating this knew exactly where to go. Exactly, this wasn't organic, is what we're getting at.
If they're being dispatched there, then why wouldn't they?
Were they? I don't think it says that they were dispatched there. I think they just said, let's see, it says, let me pull it back up. It says, somehow escaped. It says,
remember somebody called and said that they found these suspicious packages.
Right. It's the FirstNet woman. Somehow escaped the notice of two U.S. Capitol police officers who walked right past it 15 minutes after a dispatcher warned of a pipe bomb at the nearby Republican National Committee building.
And that's what I'm saying is when you're going about your business, These people aren't in an environment like me and you were, where you're looking down for sandbags, where you're looking down for dirt that's been disturbed. You're just walking. How many times have you seen people trip or something because they're not paying attention? The fact that these guys walk past something that's a device that's on the ground, that's not shocking, nor is it unreasonable. Now, if they're dispatched to that specifically to look for it, well, then yes, I weigh that a little bit different, because now you should be aware. But in that situation, they walked past it. Okay, how many other people walked past it? You saw civilians walk past it.
But they walked past it like that's, according to the report, that's the only place they looked, and that's where the bomb previously was. It was no longer there.
Well, because they got dispatched. And I'll go back and watch the video. But you also, in the brief surveillance footage we saw, you saw civilians walking past it.
Yeah,
so are we going to say that the civilians are in on it too because they didn't see it?
No. You're way over analyzing. The civilians have nothing to do with it.
Okay, but they still walk past it.
So if you get a call and you've got 3 buildings, all right,
But
and you get a call,
but I get what you're saying, but these guys walked past it before they received the information on the location of it, unless I'm understanding this wrong.
They walked past the bomb at the DNC on their way to the CBCI, looked at a bush there, and then walked back to the DNC, look at another bush, the only 2 bushes they looked at in 11 minutes of footage, and that's where the bomb was. The first place they looked was where the bomb originally was. It's been moved from there to the DNC now. So the only 2 places they looked were the places where the bomb has at some point been. That is very suspicious.
Why?
And the call,
because they were told.
No, they weren't told it was at the DNC or the CBCI, according to the article. Now, we don't know what the actual dispatch came in. The dispatch was for the RNC.
If I remember, well, yes, they're dispatched to the RNC. Now, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes at that point.
Correct.
But they're dispatched to a specific location of where this is at. At that point, now you have people that are going to be looking at surveillance tape, because this is what would happen in any other investigation where we have cameras. As I'm going to point A to look at where it's at, you're going to have people that are reviewing multiple cameras looking for suspicious devices as well. And they're going to be like, hey, Johnny Bravo, check this location. I think I see something over there. Or check this location. I see something there. And they can zoom in with these cameras. So there's, unless we have that information to weigh it as an impossibility, is not the case. And here's the thing. If it was just arbitrary, then I would be like, yeah, that's kind of funny business. But you actually had someone report the definitive location of a bomb or alleged bomb that they then corroborated existed. Once they corroborated existed, all of a sudden it becomes a high priority for everybody. Everybody that has access to the surveillance system is on a camera monitoring that. I guarantee you that's what's happening. And they're helping the cops look. I guarantee you that's happening.
All right. Well, there's a lot more of that article, so I've got to unpack it all. It just came across my desk this morning, so we'll definitely talk about that more on SitRep. Maybe we can reach out and get some more insight.
Yeah, and I don't want people to think I'm saying that there's not funny business. I'm not saying that, because there could be. What I'm saying is there's very limited info so far to suggest that it's funny business.
All right. Lee Walden, back in the day, I was chair crew on patrol. We rigged trawler in the Gulf. They dispatched 400 bales of pot Gulf shores, also part of helo cleanup. We had lots of plants grow at Air Base Mobile ATC. I bet you did. Marcia Gravino, there was just a huge property seizure in Myrtle Beach a few weeks ago, and news said precursors, Chinese chemical company and Sinaloa cartel involved. It occurred in one of the nicest neighborhoods. I didn't see that. I'll have to look that up. Thank you. Harry Vetch, Title 18, Section 242. We need to prosecute all these motherfuckers who are using their position for nefarious means. Amen. Cam Cooksey, morning, brothers. Morning. SitRep tonight is going to be lit. And good luck on your new show tonight, Alpha. Also, don't know if y'all read this one earlier. Let's see what it is real quick. By the way, Cam, I have your dance video, and you're screwed, bro. Cam, that link doesn't work. That link does not work.
You had one job, Cam.
I know. You had one job. That's the link right there. One job. One job, brother. Yeah, you didn't see Cam's dance video?
I have not. I look forward to that tonight.
It's epic. It's epic. It's actually really cool, but it's also hilarious. It's also hilarious. So, all right, guys, that is going to wrap up the show. Please smash that thumbs up. If you, what do you say? Do you not have Truth Social? Yes, I have Truth Social. I put it in exactly. I copied it exactly from the link. And it says not found. Resource could not be found. Seditious behavior punishable by death, he just said. That's his newest tweet from an hour ago. Or his newest truth, excuse me. Seditious behavior punishable by death. I don't know if that's what he was getting at, but all right, guys, stay tuned tonight for SitRep. Yeah, Cam, you didn't put the entire link. Listen to Jackie. Stay tuned for SitRep tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. Alpha, what else you got coming up, brother?
Alpha, Conversation with Just Alpha 2.0. It's the Monday show, and we're going to try to reduce that show down to 2 hours and 2.5 hours by introducing a second part, which will air now on Thursday nights following SitRep. So after you go watch Rug Pull, then come watch the replay with me.
All right, and of course we both have Tina Peters Saga Part 2 up on our channels if you want to check that out. I think we kept it to like an hour 45 minutes, and I think we blew Alpha's mind several times, so you can check those out. Rumble.com/CannCon and Rumble.com/The Alpha Warrior Show. And then Ash is going to be posting on, because she was also in the interview with us with Colonel Smith and Mark Cook. She's going to be posting all 3 of the series as a one video thing. So you can check that out as well. Rumble.com/MyAmerica. And thank you guys all so much for tuning in. See you tonight, Alpha. What's up?
One more thing. If you allow me, I just want to wish my baby girl, my little princess, a happy birthday as she turns 5 years old today. We'll be celebrating it tomorrow.
She's a Valentine's Day baby. My birthday's on Saturday. That's the only way I know that. I've had a lot of years to think about that. I didn't want to think about it. Valentine's Day, you're like, hey, baby, you got the rose petals on the bed and all the other stuff. And Alpha comes in there and he's like, hey, it's Valentine's Day. Let's go all the way.
Go in there and say, you got some soft disclosure.
Soft disclosure. Bro, I had like in grade school, I had more birthdays in mid-November than any time else. I had one class of 30 kids. I had 4 kids who had November 22nd birthdays with me. 4, myself included. So 4 total. Valentine's Day, baby. Bow, chicka, bow, wow.
Before skincare went synthetic, people used something simple, something real. Tallow. Grass-fed and finished beef tallow is packed with vitamins A, D, E, and K. Nutrients your skin actually knows what to do with. It locks in moisture, restores elasticity, and defends against winter dryness. No water, no preservatives, and no BS. Unlike plant oils or chemical creams, tallow mimics your skin's own structure. Elbows, hands, knees, post-shave, anywhere your skin's crying for real moisture. Perfect for gifting or keeping your own skin soft when the cold hits. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Badlands for 15% off. Ancient Care, modern truth.